killed by his own kind. When you picture a Triceratops dying, you picture a T-Rex. 3 tons of teeth against a wall of horn and bone. But the most famous Triceratops skull ever pulled out of the ground tells a different story, because its killer had the exact same face it did. Meet Big John, the largest Triceratops skull ever discovered, with the nightmare punched clean through its bony frill. That hole wasn't a bite, it was a horn, another male's horn, driven straight through the bone during a brawl over territory or mates. And the wound landed near major nerves and blood vessels, which means every single time Big John turned his head, it was pure agony. Here's the twist that makes it worse. The bone around the wound had already started healing. He survived the stabbing. What he didn't survive was what came after, an infection that likely rotted away at him for months, turning one bad duel into a slow death sentence. Sometimes your deadliest predator is just you, with a slightly worse temper. But at least Big John saw his enemy coming. The next two didn't get a warning, they got each other, buried mid-fight. Around 75 million years ago, 2 dinosaurs got locked in a fight so vicious that not even a collapsing sand dune could break it up. In one corner, Protoceratops, a sheep-sized cousin of Triceratops with a beak strong enough to crush your hand like a breadstick, bite force in the same league as a modern hyena. In the other, Velociraptor, the real one, turkey-sized and feathered, but carrying that iconic sickle claw. The fossil catches the exact instant it went wrong for both of them. The Protoceratops has the raptor's arm clamped in its beak, almost certainly snapping it. The Velociraptor has its killing claw buried in the Protoceratops's throat, and neither one let go. A sandstorm or a collapsing dune buried them alive, still trying to murder each other, and preserved one of the most famous frozen fight scenes ever found. Here's the unhinged part. The Velociraptor was smaller than its prey. This was likely a desperate gamble for a meal that went catastrophically wrong. Either way, it's the first hard proof that raptors really did have that killer instinct we always gave them credit for. That fight happened on land, but the sky had its own way of flipping the hunter into the hunted. The fisher who got fished. Meet Rhamphorhynchus, a pterosaur, a flying reptile, not a dinosaur, with a mouthful of needle teeth built for exactly one job: yanking fish out of the water. About 150 million years ago, one of them was doing precisely that. It dove, it hooked a fish, easy dinner. And then a second fish, Aspidorhynchus, a thing with a long spear for a snout, launched up and drove its face straight through the pterosaur's wing. Both went under, both died. And here's the punchline. The fish was way too small to actually eat a pterosaur. This was never a hunt. It just saw something flapping, its feeding instincts triggered a strike, and that one dumb reflex fossilized all 3 of them. The pterosaur, its fish, and the fish that started it into a single 150 million year old underwater pileup. So far, everything died in a fight, but some of these animals didn't need an enemy at all. Their own body was the battlefield, a body that should have quit. Not every prehistoric animal died doing something stupid. Some of them lived lives so brutal that surviving at all is the real miracle. Exhibit A, Sue, one of the largest and most complete T-Rex skeletons ever found, and basically a medical horror file written in bone. Broken ribs, a leg so badly infected it swelled to twice its normal thickness. Weird holes punched through the jaw. Any one of those could kill many modern animals outright. Sue shrugged off all of them and then lived long enough to develop arthritis in the spine. Read that again. The scariest land predator in history didn't get taken down by a rival or a wound or a bad hunt. Sue got old. She limped, she ached, she outsurvived every single thing that ever tried to kill her, and then died of basically being elderly. Which might be the most terrifying T-Rex fact there is. The apex predator's final boss was time. Sue survived a broken body. This next predator picked a fight with the wrong dinner, and the dinner won. Impaled by lunch. Being the apex predator doesn't make you safe. Not in the Jurassic, and definitely not if you were an Allosaurus. This was the top carnivore of its day, around 9 meters long and over 2 tons. Drop it into the modern world and it'd be the biggest land predator on the planet. But Allosaurus lived in one of the rare ecosystems where the salad could kill you back. Diplodocus swung a tail over 12 meters long, a bullwhip that shattered bone on contact. And Stegosaurus carried maybe the single most dangerous weapon any animal has ever grown, the thagomizer, 4 sword-length spikes on the tip of its tail. We know Allosaurus encountered the risk because we found the loser. One Allosaurus has a Stegosaurus spike hole punched clean through its pelvis, a wound that broke the bone, got infected, and eventually killed the predator. And in case you think it learned its lesson, we've also got a Stegosaurus plate with a bite mark that matches an Allosaurus jaw almost perfectly. These two just kept killing each other. Respect the salad. But not every fossil death is a title fight. Sometimes the killer wasn't even paying attention. The first roadkill. Not every fossil is a clash of monsters. Sometimes it's just a footstep. Footprints fossilized too, the exact second a foot pressed into the mud. And usually they only record who walked past. But one of them recorded a murder completely by accident. Late Jurassic. A sauropod, picture a multi-ton walking crane, is plodding across a muddy plain, not looking down. And sitting in exactly the wrong spot is a turtle, having the worst nap in the history of napping. One footstep. That's all it took. The result is a turtle flattened and preserved for 150 million years. Officially, the oldest confirmed roadkill on Earth. Killed by something so enormous it never even noticed the turtle existed. That turtle had the worst luck in the Jurassic. This next dinosaur is about to challenge it for the title. Killed by a tree. If there were an award for the unluckiest dinosaur that ever lived, this Parasaurolophus would be a frontrunner. Its skeleton reads like a list of things that should never happen to one animal. A fractured pelvis, broken ribs, a wrecked jaw, and, the standout, a neck vertebra crushed almost flat. The leading theory for that last one? A tree fell on it. An actual tree. And here's the gut punch. It didn't die on the spot. The bones show healing, which means this thing survived a tree to the neck and then kept limping around in agony, still foraging for food, still fleeing predators, still doing all of it with a shattered spine and a jaw infection that probably finished the job. Sometimes the deadliest thing in prehistory wasn't teeth or claws. It was just a really, really bad week. But of everything on this list, no death is dumber than the last one. A predator killed by the meal it had already caught. Killed by its own dinner. This is the one I promised you. Meet an ichthyosaur, a marine reptile shaped like a dolphin that ruled the oceans for over 150 million years. This particular one lived in the Triassic and was roughly the size of a great white shark. Triassic seas were crowded with strange life, including thalattosaurs, long, slim coastal reptiles up to 4 meters long. Normally, for an ichthyosaur, a size difference this big means the fight is already over. This fossil shows a 4.5 meter ichthyosaur trying to swallow a nearly 4 meter thalattosaur whole, a predator attempting to gulp down prey almost as long as its entire body in one greedy go. It did not work. The thalattosaur lodged in its throat, and both of them died right there, the hunter choking to death on the meal it refused to let go of. Pure greed, fossilized forever. If you made it this far, which one of these was the dumbest way to go? Drop your answer below and subscribe for more.